in which I help ambitious IMGs to get the best possible odds of matching, the best possible odds of matching by creating an application that gives them the best possible odds of matching. And so tonight I wanted to take some time to walk through something that's pretty important in the match process, and that's how to actually outline your personal statement. The way that you outline your personal statement actually is connected to a main message. And what your main message is something that you want to create to last you throughout the entire match season. And you create it so that you know how you're creating the rest of your application, right? All of your application needs to take its cue from your main message, and your main message really is a brief message or a summary that lets a program know why they need to invite you to interview, and ultimately why they need to rank you highly above everyone else so that you can match. So with the main message, you, as I'm saying, are going to use the main message to inform all of your application, but the outline for your personal statement in the match process comes from that main message, and it's what we're going to tackle tonight. So we're actually going to be talking about 4 questions that you need to cover in your main message when you outline it to write your personal statement. We're going to look at 4 different questions that your main message must answer. And so you can just grab a piece of paper or grab your laptop or your phone so you can... I apologize for that background noise, by the way. Somebody is riding a bike somewhere. But when you are able to answer these 4 questions, you will be able to put together your main message, and then from the main message, you are able to make the outline for your personal statement. And so the very first question that I want you to answer in terms of taking time to write down a response is, why this specialty? So when you are saying to a program that I want to come, I want to be a part of your team, I want to train for the next, 3-4 years in this specialty, the number one question that your personal statement needs to answer is, why this specialty? So what is it about this specialty that caught your eye, that made you think of applying, is another one of the questions that I have. And this is from a workbook that I have called How to Write a Memorable Personal Statement in 8 Steps. So we're basically just applying the rubric for that to writing your personal statement. So you're answering the question, why this program? What is it about this program that caught your eye and made you think of applying so that you can match? And one of the ways that you can think of getting an answer to that question is really to think about, what are all the reasons that you've been telling people that you want to match into this specialty. So just whenever you find yourself talking to someone saying, hey, I really want to get into this specialty because of such and such reason, what are those reasons that you're telling people? That's normally where the answer to that question lies. And then also, why are you interested in this particular field above other fields? So let's say, for instance, the easiest example of this normally is people who are thinking of, applying to internal medicine, right? And then the question then becomes, as you go along further in the season and you think about how many programs you're applying to and how to give yourself better odds, the question then becomes, well, why internal medicine instead of family medicine, right? So there's the issue of why you want to match into a certain specialty by itself, but then if you're thinking of that specialty as compared to specialties that are close to it or close enough to it, why has that one won out? So just take a few minutes and write down your responses to why this specialty, because that's the first part of your main message, and it is actually the most important part. You must answer that question, and you want this question answered before you actually go into an interview, right? The other part of, or the other question that you want to answer in terms of putting together your main message, in terms of having this central idea that you can use to outline your personal statement, is the reason that you're worthy. And so you need to understand that this is 100% your responsibility. At times people think that this is something that they can leave out, and then they'll get to an interview, and then in the interview they will communicate to persons why they are worthy of matching into that specialty. And that is not how it works, right? Like, your personal statement from the very beginning needs to communicate to individuals the reasons that you're worthy of matching into that specialty. And so the number one way that you can always show people that you're worthy of an opportunity, including an opportunity like matching, is to show them what are the ways that you have been excellent in the past, so that they can know that you will be excellent in the future. So some of the reasons that you're worthy of matching might include different academic achievements that you have, including finishing medical school. If you finished medical school under duress, like you had any special challenges during that time. It can also include your non-academic achievements, so things that took place outside of the classroom, even completely outside of a medical environment in that sense. Well, in terms of like an academic medical environment, it took place in another setting, but it still shows that you're outstanding. So you might have been an outstanding athlete, and you were able to balance being an outstanding athlete while being an outstanding medical student. You need to think of all of the reasons of why you are worthy of matching, and that's your second question. Why are you worthy of matching? Your personal statement absolutely must answer that question. So, the third question that you need to answer is, what is your unique value proposition? And so your unique value proposition is really important, because it's how you will be distinguished from another applicant in the match process. This is not a response that anybody else can make up for you. It is something that you need to take the time to work through. So again, when you go into an interview, you are continuing that conversation about your unique value proposition, and you're not actually bringing it up for the first time. Now, I will say that for most people, your unique value proposition is not necessarily going to be one thing. It's not necessarily like you found a cure for something, or you figured out a case that everybody else couldn't figure it out, or you were speeding through your medical education, you went on an accelerated path because you're just so brilliant. For many people applying to residency, your unique value proposition ends up being a combination of different things, that when you take those things and you look at them as a whole, you become an outstanding person who has something to offer that the other person does not. But it's not necessarily that there's one definite thing that sets you apart from everyone else. So some of the things to think about in terms of having a unique value proposition is, what are some of the specialized skills or interests that you might have? An example of this are individuals who are foreign medical graduates, and you might be coming out of a setting where research is not very popular. Not a lot of individuals do research, but for some reason you've managed to put yourself out there and to get certain opportunities. And so your research skills compared to other people are pretty advanced. You might be a really good researcher in addition to being a really good clinician, right? So you want to think of your unique value proposition in terms of what can you offer that nobody else can. Another way to think, or another thing that can end up being a unique value proposition, is a unique and useful life experience that you have had, and that is framed in a positive way. And so it's really important that it is framed in a positive way, because I think sometimes people hear a unique life experience and they think that they can write about the divorce that they went through, or losing a parent in a really traumatic way, or failing med school, or having to transfer medical schools. It's not an invitation to a sob story, but it really is an invitation to think of any life experiences that you have had that have made you a better clinician. So maybe you find that you are a very compassionate person because you have known what it means to not receive compassion, or that you are very, not careful, you're very gentle and very empathetic with patients who don't have a certain level of understanding, because you yourself are from a family where persons were underserved in medical settings. So there are life experiences that you can have that will set you apart, that will give you unique value that nobody else will have. Because if you, and this is an actual experience of a client, of several clients actually, if you are from a country where medical services are poor, and you've seen your relatives interact with the medical system, seen them be very confused about what's going on, because things are not being explained to them properly, we would then understand why you have a particular passion for patient education, or for patient education, explained or consistently explained in a way that people can understand. That's a part of your unique value proposition that's based on a life experience that you have had. Another way for you to have a unique value proposition is to talk about a social cause or an unusual or unpopular academic topic that you've taken an interest in. So examples of these for people, applying to residency, sometimes, individuals might care about medication compliance, things like polypharmacy, just any kind of issue in your specialty that you would, be upset enough to write an opinion piece about it, or you would take a stance on it. Or for people who care about psychiatry and about mental health, you might care about mental health stigma, right? And it's even better if you're not just saying that you care about these things, but that we can actually see, based on your CV and based on your track record, that you have actually done work in these areas. So you're not just saying, I care about people with mental health diseases having to fight mental health stigma, but we can look on your CV and see that in this year you volunteered at this and that place to fight stigma in this way, and so we know that it's real, right? So those are 3 pretty important questions, and then you're going to pull them together, which is step 4, which is sort of like a question, but it's really the pulling together of them, right? You want to know overall, what is it that makes you stand apart from the other person next to you? So when you go back to the beginning and you think of the reason that you want to be in this specialty, when you think of the reasons that you're worthy of matching, and when you think of all of the different things that you can offer to a specialty that the other applicant can't, what does that look like when you pull them all together? So an example of it would be, I want to match into, let's just use internal medicine because that's pretty popular. So like you would say, I want to match into internal medicine because I like, having to figure out complicated diagnoses. That would be an example of something that somebody would say that they love about internal medicine. And you can talk about your reason for having that, right? So maybe you like to figure out complex diagnoses because you have liked science since you were in high school, and the process of problem solving really appeals to you, right? But that's the reason that you want to match into the specialty, which was question number 1. And so this is the first part of forming your main message. Then you have other reasons that you want to match into a particular specialty. So again, let's say you want to match into internal medicine because you like having a relationship with a patient over time. So it could be that you want to match into internal medicine because you like having a relationship with patients over time. And then you can talk to us a bit about why it is that you find having that relationship over time to be very useful, right? So in terms of outlining your personal statement, you know that at least one paragraph of that personal statement is going to talk to the reasons that you want to match into the specialty, right? Then we're going to move on into the second part of putting all of the first 3 questions together to make your main message, which is to talk about something that you have achieved in the past and the importance of this achievement. So let's say that you are somebody who, in theory, you received straight A's in medical school, right? So we can know that, one of the things that stands out about you is that you've been able to maintain a high level of academic performance. And let's say that you've been able to do that while having personal challenges in your life. You can talk about feeling ready for the rigors of residency because you've been able to survive the rigors of your medical school despite having personal challenges going on. So what we had said before about your past achievement being predictive of future achievement, we can thus understand that, okay, despite having these personal challenges, you were able to excel in medical school, which we can take to mean that you will excel in residency also. You want to then talk about another past achievement. As I said before, sometimes, individuals are outstanding athletes, they are outstanding dancers, they have a track record of volunteer work. I think athletics is a really good one because it's normally pretty easy to talk about some of the skills and habits that you develop from being an athlete, such as being disciplined, such as learning how to work on a team. You can talk to your involvement in sports, your involvement in athletics, and then the importance of that is that you have all of these transferable skills that you can bring over to a residency team, right? Having been on an athletic team, there are things that you can bring over from your sports team to a residency team, transferable skills. These are things that you can talk about, right? So that in and of itself would then make for another paragraph. You've covered the reason that you want to match into the specialty. Then you're going to have another paragraph covering the reasons that you're worthy, including your academic performance, and then all of the skills that you can transfer over to a residency team. Then you want to spend some time talking about your unique value proposition. For everybody, that is going to be different. A unique value proposition can even be as minute as having a mentor. For some people in medical school, they have mentors who take a special interest in them. You spend extra time with your mentor. You're able to learn things that other people have not necessarily learned. You've spent extra time volunteering in different clinics. Your next paragraph would then outline what is this thing that you know that you can offer that nobody else can offer to the residency team. If you have just put in so many hours over the years volunteering in your specialty every weekend of your life, that's something that nobody else, or very few people will be able to match. And so then your next paragraph can very easily discuss what is that unique value proposition. That's going to be a very integral part of your personal statement, and so you want to spend time on getting the unique value proposition down right. When you talk about a unique value proposition, the second really important part of it, apart from knowing what it is and how it came to be, is to know why that's important to the specialty that you're applying to. So let's say, for instance, you have been somebody who you spent a lot of time volunteering in underserved settings, and you've developed a particular kind of patience and passion for working with an underserved population. You need to go ahead and just connect the dots for the person who's reading, because they're not going to connect the dots themselves. They don't need to, they don't have time to. And to talk about what having that ability to be patient and to be passionate about that particular kind of patient population would mean for being in a residency program, right? For a lot of people, it means that were you to work in a setting that has a lot of demands, because you're working with that particular population, you would be able to treat them with just as much compassion and dignity and with all of the calm in the world that you would, if you were in another setting, where things were easier because of the patient population. So you want to think about not just the unique value proposition, but why that is something of value to the residency program, and really to spell that out for them. You don't want to hint, you want to spell it out. With a unique value proposition, there's also the idea of your UVP, we'll call it, being of value to the residency program, different from being of value to the world. So let's say, for instance, let's just say your unique value proposition was being a meticulous researcher, right? Let's just say that was something that was under your belt. Or maybe something that's more accessible for people is probably being somebody who's passionate about teaching, right? Like, let's say that you're passionate about teaching. It's very easy to think of a reason that this would be of value to a residency program, and you could talk about that especially for the programs that are very upfront about how important it is for them to have residents who are involved in medical education. You can easily talk about that, right? So the value of the unique value proposition is local, in that there's a local value, there's a value that it holds for the residency program, but a really good unique value proposition will also always have value for the wider world. So not just the residency program, but what is the impact of you having that unique value on the patients of the world, of the people of the world, of the younger doctors in your specialty around the world. You want to think of your unique value proposition on both of those levels and to communicate that as well. So if you're a really strong teacher, it's not just that you will be of value to the medical students in like at the residency program where you are. But if you are known for giving students hope or for helping them to pass when they're on the brink of failing, that has long-lasting repercussions for your field in general in the long run, and you want to think about that way. So we have your reasons for wanting to be in the specialty as one paragraph. We have the reason that you're worthy as another paragraph, and then we have the unique value proposition on a local level and the unique value proposition on a wider level in terms of what you have to offer, right? There's another question that your personal statement for residency is going to answer, and if you're really good, you can kind of weave the answer in throughout, but I wanted to be explicit about it. It's obviously, why you need to get residency training, but the answer to why you need to get residency training is tied very heavily to why you're drawn to a specialty. Because let's say, for instance, as we said in the beginning, you're somebody who you like figuring out diagnoses, or you like being able to see patients over time. The obvious responses to that is that through residency training, you're going to be able to see more conditions. Through residency training, you're going to see more patients and spend more time with them. So you want to be sure that you're also explicitly answering that question about why you need residency training, right? So this is where you are right now. This is where you want to be in 5-10 years. And residency training is going to fill that gap. So I hope that was helpful for you in terms of how to outline your personal statement for the residency match. If you just take those 4 essential questions, depending on how you count those 3-4 essential questions, and you answer them, you will be well on your way to having a memorable personal statement. All right, take care. Bye.